Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, we're going to do a little something different here on 100 Yards Football. We're not going to talk about any teams or special players, but today we got a special guest, a young man that's a Grambling State graduate, computer information system. But he's also a young man that comes out of Ruston, Louisiana area that has a story to tell. And he's going to tell us behind the scenes what goes into having a son that's a big time athlete or a daughter, their journey from when they're a small youth up to where they are now. And I think today here on 100 Yards Football, we always talking about sports from the football perspective, basketball, baseball, but we got to really talk to someone. And Mr. Eric Outley, our guest today, is going to tell us what goes behind the scenes, the politics, the ability to be a mentor at a high level, and what these young kids go through and how they look up to the parents. So today, here on 100 Yards Football, the show is going to be very special. One more time, if you like the video today, please come in and share it. Special thanks to our producer, Mr. Daniel Jeremiah Long, for helping us today. Now, let's get to the point in the show. The young man I'm bringing up, he's out of Ruston, Louisiana, by way of Grambling State University. Very smart man, a member of Zion Travelers Church, a deacon in the church. And today, we love to have him here on 100 Yards Football. How you doing, Mr. Outley?
Man, how's it going this morning, man? Thank you for that warm welcome introduction, man. I think I might have to owe you for that one, man.
Well, now, today's show, like I said, we talk about so much about the LeBron Jameses of the world, the Odell Beckham Juniors, and we don't never really know what they had to go through going through this process. And then you got the NILs, non-college football. You got so many parts moving. But today was special with you being on the show. You're going to tell us from the beginning to the end what really goes behind the scene. So if you like the video, please come in and share it. The first question I want to ask you, Mr. Outley, and I know you had a son right now. They said Louisiana Tech right now, currently on the team, but not really progressing with the team at this moment. But at one time, he was a highly, highly recruited athlete. What foundations did you set for your son at an early age and going through this process?
Man, at an early age, Brother Vincent, me and my wife, we knew that when we started having children, that the number one foundation we wanted to set with them was to be with the Lord. We knew early on, and I would encourage any parent, if you have strong beliefs, if you grew up in a Christian background, set that solid foundation and train up a child in the direction that they show, teach them the ways of the Lord. And that's before you find out anything about their athletic ability. That's before you even discover that they even want to be an athlete. Set the foundation. And I'm always reminded of the prodigal son. When his father set that foundation, even though he strayed away, Brother Vincent, he found a way to come back to his father, because that father set that solid foundation. And we knew early on at an early stage in our marriage that when we were having children, we wanted to teach them the ways of the Lord. And then we wanted to teach them not only the ways of the Lord, but to be wise and to be knowledgeable. So when times and things didn't go the way that they wanted to go, that they can always set back on the word of God. So that's how we started that solid foundation with our children.
Okay. How did you find out that your son at an early age was a special athlete?
Man, bro, Vince, man, starting up, it must have been around about 5 years old. As any parent and especially as a father, they'll tell you, you just want to put a ball in their hand and or some kind of equipment to put in their hand just to see. And I said, man, let me see what my son will do with this football. And I mean, very early on, I'm talking about the age of 5, bro, Vince, he was throwing a football,
Yes,
man. like a teenage boy, and I said, whoa, okay. So we started just doing different things, and I wasn't a huge baseball fan, but my wife decided to put him into baseball,
Yes, sir.
and he excels so well in baseball. I got a good friend, Jimmy Zachary, that's a coach over at Opelousas, man. We was up playing at the house one day, and Eric must have been about 7 or 8. And man, he was throwing that ball so hard, he struck me out. And that still resonates with my friend today. Say, remember when your son struck you out, man, when we was out there playing in the yard? So I knew very early on that it's something special about this kid, and parents. I would advise them just to see, just to see where your kid is, and it may not be football, it may not be baseball, it may not be basketball, but whatever. It could be a daughter in gymnastics, or it could be a daughter in cheer. But whatever the case may be, see where they are at an early age, and then you'll know early on what they'll become.
I'm gonna go back to how you just open up your answering with your first point of the show this morning, and then I'm going back to this: the spiritual connection with the Creator at an early age like this. You really, from what you just said, you really had to rely on the Lord's guidance. Explain that process.
So yeah, at an early age, especially when you have children, um, you want to seek God's guidance as a parent. You want to pray to God that as a parent, that you do the right things, you say the right things, that God puts you in a place of being the parent that you need to be. So then that therefore that you can rely on that to overflow into your children. And so what a parent what you learn and what you know, then you can translate that to your children, and put that into them and instill in them those values that I think that won't leave them for a lifetime, because that foundation is set. And so even today, when kids grow up, and other parents can attest to this, they tend to, since I'm a teenager now, and since I'm out the house, they may not go to church as much as they did when they was in the house. But every so often you make a phone call and say, hey man, I see you hadn't been, and then they get back on the right path because that foundation has been set.
Okay, at an early age with your son Eric Jr., what what did you do that helped him develop the athletic skills? What were some of the processes that you went through with his age and developing his skills?
So when we knew early on, and other parents probably can attest to this as well, and if not, this would be some encouragement to them. Um, we put him in football camps. Not only football camps, we put him in travel baseball teams. He's the reason, I tell everybody, he's the reason why we had to purchase an RV, because we were traveling so much with him on the road. So we put him in early on to develop his skills, and to help him. We put him in these various camps, and then we put in travel baseball. And I would encourage a parent not only just to bro Vincent, not only just to rely on the high school aspect of football, but to go a little further, because your athlete might need that one-on-one in the camp. That quarterback might need that one-on-one attention that he may not get it all the way on a high school level, but he may could get it at a camp. Get something where you can get a person that's a quarterback specialist, or that's a wide receiver specialist, and he can get that one-on-one time that outside of football that can develop that skill set that he may have. And then I will encourage a parent too, that if you know your child plays basketball, just don't set them up to be a point guard. Just don't set them up to be a forward. Don't set them up to be a center, because if they play center in high school, that don't mean they're gonna play center in college. So those things that are known that we did for Eric Jr., we set him up to be wherever you go in college. And I told his baseball coach, I said this, bro Vincent, and this will help or other parent. I said, just don't have him play shortstop. Just don't have him play second base. Put him over there at third base, because we don't know if he played college ball. We don't know where they will put him. Let him pitch some, because then you developing those skill sets, and then you're finding out that, hey, when he get to college, I'm so glad I did that, because he plays second base in college, but the college coach may put him at first base. And so now he's well rounded. And so those are some of the things that we did for Eric Jr. We got him in some camps. We got him. We put him in that travel baseball. We got him some one-on-one attention to kind of help him develop his skill set.
Now the biggest question, and like I have my business partner here, part of 100 Yards Football, Ronnie Keebler. He has a son right now that's performing at a high level, high school here in Atlanta metro area, where we broadcasting live today. But I always, when I went to see him in some camps last summer, the one question came across my mind, and I got excited, because this is a question I wanted to ask you. What advice would you give to other parents about academics? Because you're spending so much time. But just tell our audience out there, the parents, again, what will you give the parents about academics in developing your son along with this journey?
Oh man, that. I'm glad you asked me that question, because I used to always tell, and I tell him, son, you are a student athlete. And I say they put the word student before athlete to show you the importance of your academics. I would encourage every parent that listen in to this broadcast. First and foremost, parents, make sure you drive home the importance of a strong academic background. Here's the reason why. It's only a select few of athletes that make it to the NFL, to the NBA, to the MLB. It's only a select few people that reach that level. And if our kids are fortunate, great. But if they're not, they need to have a plan B in place. That plan B starts at a very young age, and it goes all the way through high school. You should push them to the point of, even when they're in high school, that not only are they being sought after for a sports scholarship, but they're being sought after for a academic scholarship. Because then that you know that your athlete will be a stellar athlete, and even after college, then they can go on to be a part of an athletic director program, or they can go on to be whatever in job they have, because now so many athletes fall astray because they didn't have that plan B, and they didn't have that academic structure in their life. So they fall by the wayside because they depended so heavily on the sports side of things. So I would encourage Brother Vincent to tell every parent, make sure you drive home. It is so important to make your young man or your young lady or your daughter, your son, to know that they are a student athlete, and then that grades are so important.
Another important aspect I want to ask you is that, like I said, last year I went Ronnie Keebler, the member here, 100 Yards Football, and I went to watch a lot of camps, because his son was involved in basketball camps and football camps. What happens when, let's say, how do you keep your son or daughter on a positive mindset when things don't go their way? Example, maybe your kid not getting enough time playing. He comes out, he might not only play 2 minutes in the game, or he might get taken out of the game. And it always fascinates me. I see kids, they get upset, right? How do a parent is able to keep their son still or daughter on that positive mindset? Because everything is not going to go well, I'm assuming, at this age. And you're going to have a lot of what I call peaks and valleys.
Right. One of the things that we done with Eric Jr. and our other son, I used to always tell him, because he played quarterback in high school. He was fortunate enough to his sophomore year, both quarterbacks, the starting quarterback and the backup, he was third string, got hurt, and he had to step up and become a quarterback at a very early age. Well, his junior year had some controversy with him being at the quarterback slot. But I told him this, bro, Vincent, and I tell every other parent to tell their young their daughter or their son this. If when you wake up in the morning time and football is on your mind, and at the midday football is still on your mind, and when you go to bed at night, football is on your mind,
Yes, sir.
then that means you love football. And so if you love football, let that be your drive and determination to say no matter what happens on the football field, whether I get cut playing some playing time, or whether I have to sit out, or whether it don't go right over here, but whatever the determination factor is, don't you give up, because that's who you are. If you wake up in the morning time and basketball is on your mind, young lady, that's who you are. And it's at the midday, that's who you are. And so no matter what the coach say, no matter what nobody else say, your peers say, you are determined to play basketball. And so that's the determination factor to say, hey, I'm going to do this because this is what I love to do. And that's how we set his mindset to say, no matter what happened, it don't always go this way. It don't always go this way. When it's working, it's fine. But when you have those moments of adversity and setbacks, remember, I love this game, and I'm not gonna let nobody stop me from playing it.
Okay. You're seeing the young athletes. Yesterday, I tell you a true story. I attended the Bethune-Cookman Florida A&M SWAC Championship baseball game yesterday. Very enjoyable game here in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, and they had this team from Atlanta called the Atlanta Vikings, right? And I'm good. I got you in front of me. So they had all the coaches. So what they did, they went out and got some kids some snacks, got them some ice cream, chips, et cetera, et cetera. And I was looking over the questions this morning that I wanted to ask you. So what is the nutritional plan you advise for parents for the young people at a young age? Because basically I saw all those little guys yesterday. Some was big, some was skinny, but they weren't eating right. So tell us as a parent, what nutrition plans did you develop for young Eric at an early age and leading up to his high school career?
So my wife, she's a nurse practitioner, and so she have friends. She have friends kind of like in a lot of different areas, and one of our friends was a person that dealt with nutrition, and we kind of asked her at the time, what would be the best plan of action, what would be, and so she gave us a plan of things that he should eat. She didn't say what he because he's young. Our youngsters, they're gonna burn off things more so than us. But we put him on a plan that, hey son, you're not supposed to be eating this during this period of time. That's in high school. Now, when they get to college, of course, they're gonna have their own nutritional plan. But in high school, you kind of want to keep them grounded so that they don't get too far away, too sidetracked on the things that they shouldn't be eating. And then you got to keep them balanced, because a lot of kids like the hot dogs, the pizzas, and this and that. And so you got to kind of keep them grounded with that, and saying that we can't do too much of that. But not saying that you can't, but we don't want to go too far away from that. So we kept him on a plan that would be conducive, and then we found we got with a person. So I would encourage parents to find somebody that's a nutritionist that can kind of guide you, that gives you somewhat of a guide to go by. Not that we don't want them to eat the ice cream, and not that we don't want them to eat the pizzas and the hot dogs, but some of that stuff, too much of it would be harmful to your student athlete.
Okay, how did you keep your son in shape, and what was the proper training behind it?
Man, I'm glad you asked me. We got a guy named Ed Jackson. Ed Jackson is a former Louisiana Tech football player. He actually is on the football staff now. He's not a coach, but he's kind of like a liaison between the student athletes and the football program. And so we got with Ed Jackson maybe Eric's freshman year. We find out about Ed Jackson, like I said, through some people we know, and that's why I would encourage parents, find people that you know utilize your resources. And we hooked up with Ed Jackson. He's a personal trainer. He not only train young athletes, but he train adults. He do some personal training. So we hooked up with Ed Jackson, man. And this was we didn't even know that this was gonna happen. Like I told you earlier, Eric had to start playing his sophomore year, but his freshman year, that summer after his freshman year, he really went hard with Ed Jackson. We hooked him up, and we knew that he was becoming to be in this more important role in high school. He's beginning to play JV ball, and we didn't know that he would be playing varsity ball, but Ed Jackson put him on a good personal trainer plan, man. He was all the things that he developing his skill set, developing his speed, and man, it was so helpful his sophomore year. The things that this young man was doing, and I tell everybody, it was accredited because we put him in, hooked him up with a personal trainer. Not knowing that he would play his sophomore year as a starting quarterback on the varsity level, but it was so helpful. And I would say to parents, get with your daughter or your son and hook them up with a personal trainer, so they can start training. And like I say, the personal trainer, your strength and conditioning coach on your high school level, they'll do so much. But when you get to that personal trainer, that's that one-on-one time. And that personal trainer, you could tell him, I want you to develop my son's speed. I want you to develop my son's quickness. And now that's that personal one-on-one time that they have. And so that's what I would recommend. That's what we did. And it was very, very helpful. And I would go on to say this. He's still working out with Ed Jackson. And this is a true story. He was at Grambling State University, got cut from the team. Now he's at Louisiana Tech. He did some walk-on. He did the walk-on stuff. And he was so man electrifying out there. But it's still accredited because he was still working out. He was still doing his personal training, and he hadn't lost focus on what he wanted to do. And so he made the team by doing the things that he needed to do, but I still accredit it to his personal training. And those are the things that we did and are still doing to help him develop his skill set.
When you think about so many athletes, and I remember this, and this is probably the most important question of the interview. And I'm going to say this, talking to you over the last few minutes, man, I'm very blessed and very impressed with you, man. Because you're saying things that really need to be said this morning. And for people to understand, it ain't so much about being out on the field. It's other areas that you got to develop. So this is the major question, because there's a lot of kids that get kicked by the wayside, Mr. Outley, in the Atlanta metro area, in the metro area of Memphis, Tennessee, in the metro area of Ruston, Louisiana. You ever hear that saying that, man, it's an athlete that was better than a LeBron James, but he didn't get the opportunity. And the question I'm going to ask you, what do you do and are doing with your son right now academically?
So what we doing, man, we drive home. I mean, we stay on him. We and then this is what we tell him all the time. If you had to stop playing football right now, what career would you pursue? And he said to become a coach. So what we did academically, bro, Vincent, we set him up on a path to say, hey, this is the path that you're going to take, that even when you finish playing football, or if you stop playing today, that you're going to be on this path to now being a football coach. Some of the things that we're setting him up with some of his former coaches and some other areas of saying, start now getting your service hours. So this will be on the pathway to you becoming a coach. And I would encourage any parent, guardian, or somebody that you just know that's an athlete that you're trying to help. Set them up on a pathway. Figure out what they're good at. They might be good at marketing. Set them on a pathway to be marketing. somebody else might be say they want to become a nurse. Set them on a pathway to become a nurse. That's how we can really help our student athletes to know that even there's life after sports. Because we center our world, our athletes center their world so much around being an athlete that nothing else matters. And when that fails, then their life is destroyed because they didn't have no backup plan. They didn't have. So we got to, as parents, we got to make sure we develop a life that's surrendered, just not around football, but in other areas of our children's lives. Find out what your child want to do. It may not be a coach, it may not be a doctor, a lawyer, but whatever else beside it, they might be a sports analyst. But whatever that is, then now set them on the pathway to become that if football doesn't work out.
And before I ask you, I got two more questions for you this morning, and I don't want to let this question get out of the window. Explain the funding asset that's been behind the dream of your son and his path. Explain, like I said, the funding aspect.
Oh man, it's I would tell any parent, it
Very expensive.
it is very expensive. If and then here's the thing too, bro, Vincent. Find some support. Very fun. Travel baseball is very expensive. Get bats and traveling to different things because we wanted to set our son up to become whoever he needed to be. Even in the football world, like I said, getting a personal training and is very expensive. But then as a parent, you make those sacrifices for your children. And then if you know that it's gonna become a little more expensive for you, find other avenues, find ways, because there are ways that's out there for you to fund these things for your student athlete. It may be you got to go to the church and ask the church for assistance. It may be that you got to go to the community and ask the community for assistance. It may be you might have to go to the family and ask the family for assistance. But whatever it is, those people that you go to, they will know what you're trying to do, and they will know that you're trying to better your student athlete, and they will know his success or her success, and then that way you can find those fundings to support. Because you know the AAU basketball, that's not cheap. We know the travel baseball, that's not cheap, and we even know that they got these football little programs going on. That's not cheap because you think about all the things, and I know one of the brothers that he used our gym for his AAU basketball team. He works very, very hard to support the kids that just can't afford to pay all the things that they need to pay so that these kids can experience doing the AAU basketball. So it becomes sometimes a community effort to help fund some of this stuff. Like I said, me and my wife was very fortunate, and I thank God for that. But everybody's not as fortunate. And so that's why we have to come together and pull together so that we can help these children at least try to accomplish their goals.
And my final question, and I like this question because I talked to you the last several days, and you're very intimate about this question: the pathway to college.
Oh man, bro, Vince, I'm you got to say the best one for last, huh?
Yes, sir.
We did the seek ye first the kingdom of God. We started with that because we always know we got to seek that. But the pathway to college, so many times, man, and I would say even in the I would say at the junior high level, my wife was researching Ruston High. How will it flow into him going to college? And what we find out in that, bro, Vincent, that Ruston High has a level that you can now go just to be in a 2-year college. Ruston High has a level where you can go to a 4-year college. And then, you know, of course, they have the dual enrollment stuff. And if we hadn't researched it, they had him on a pathway to just then go to a junior college taking the classes, just the basic classes. And that's when my wife intervened and said, oh no, we want him on the pathway to now go to a 4-year university. Parents, it's so important that you get in your child's educational business, and find out what your high school credits are. Find out what your high school has your son on a pathway to do. I know every state is different. We in Louisiana. I don't know what other states require, but find out what that is. So when the time comes, you're not surprised or you're not shocked, because and get involved in your kids. This is what we did from a freshman year. We started with him developing at that time. I don't think it's as important now, the ACT. We had him on a pathway to develop the ACT test. Then we had, like I said, we had him on a pathway to do the things that he had to do in the classroom, as far as now you send yourself for a 4-year college. And then most importantly, the GPA, making sure they have the correct GPA. So often our student athletes fall by the wayside because they don't have the academics to move forward in college. And I would encourage every parent, every guardian, whoever is involved in these student athletes' life. This is so important as far as a parent standpoint. Get involved in your child's education. It's so important, because then you got to think too, like we mentioned earlier, there's life after sports. We don't want them just to, there's life after being a student athlete in high school. We then got to set them on up to go to college. Let's get in their mindsets right now that you're going to graduate from college. Let's get in their mindset right now that if football doesn't work out, even in college, you still getting your college degree. We setting you up on a pathway that not only when you graduate from high school, now we moving on, because I know that Eric Jr., you want to be a football coach. I know that whoever else in that your child is, that they want to be this. So now you're motivating them. And even the brother that you said that works with you in your podcast, whatever his student athlete wants to become, make sure he knows that, and then you can set him up to become just that person, not just on a sports realm, but on an academic level. Now we send our children up to be successful in life, just not be successful in football. So I would encourage every parent, Brother Vincent, start at a very early age. Work with the school counselors. Get involved with your student athlete. Know what's going on at the school. Uh, um, if you have to go up to the school and meet with the counselors, however it is, get involved in that school business, because what you don't want to happen is when they get receiving their diploma, and now you find out that you think it was this way, now is that way. And also we relied too heavily on our football coaches. We did. That's kind of like one of the mistakes we made, and we had to catch that. Don't rely on your football coaches. Don't rely on your counselors. Rely on who you are and loving your children and getting involved in that educational process. Don't you rely on nobody else, no matter what they say. You figure it out for yourself, because they could tell you one thing and it could be another one. But knowledge is so important when it comes to knowing what our children's pathway to success is and getting their educational background. So that's what I would encourage a parent to do, Bro Vincent.
What I want to say this morning, over the past years that I've been with my producer Jeremiah Long, and we've been doing these videos, and we've had certain guests that come on and talk football, and we got a gentleman that's going to come on this evening at 6:30, Bobby Butler. There was a first-round pick of the Atlanta Falcons in 81 out of Florida State. And trust me when I say this, I've had a lot of interviews, and Jeremiah can back this up with me, that the interviews we had, it's been great from a football standpoint. It's been great about telling a player's career. But I'm so blessed this morning on 100 Yards of Football with this gentleman in front of me, Mr. Eric Outley. And the people, you want to know why? Because He's telling a true story. He's the guy that's been in the fight. And let's be real. I'm going to go back and excuse me to my first point. There's so many kids out there that got so much potential, but they don't get the opportunity because certain obstacles are in their lives. But today, this gentleman right here, I only really talked to him over the past, 2 or 3 days.
Right.
And people here, 100 yards of football, who's watching this video, I want you to be very serious and go back and watch this. Because what Mr. Outley is telling you, he's telling you the truth, but he's telling you from a spiritual standpoint. You can feel the feeling in the air.
Yes,
you
sir.
can feel the feeling in the air. I'm sorry. But I want to say, sir, you probably one of the best guests we ever had here on 100 Yards Football.
Oh, man. Bless you, brother.
And this has not even been about football. This has not been about Jim Brown's career. This hasn't been about Edris Dickey's career. This hasn't been about Lou Brock's career. It's been about a life of helping these kids and parents that are struggling on the road to success. So, Mr. Eric Outley, your final word today here on 100 Yards of Football.
Parents, I would encourage you, and here I really want to thank you for having me, man. It's truly been a blessing to me. I don't really think I ever done nothing like this in my life, man. So to know that, I mean, I'm flowing through the airways of Atlanta, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
feel pretty good about that. I mean, God is good, and I would just encourage parents and, like I say, whoever, because it's sometimes our student athletes, it may not be a mom and dad that's involved. It may be a grandparent. It may be a godparent. It may be whoever. Get involved in their life. And then to just the community. Let's get involved in our children's lives. Because like Brother Vincent said, it's so many children fall by the wayside because they don't have nobody to lift them up when they fall. One of the biggest things that I'm about to do in the Ruston area I'm about to get into the school system as far as finding out why our children are in the position that they in, and what can we as a community, as a church, as a fraternity, as whoever, what can we do to help offset these children? So many, like you say, athletes that say, man, he was better than the running back that played because he didn't have the grades, or because he wasn't coming to school, or because he didn't have the parents pushing him. So now he get pushed to the wayside. But it's left up to the brother Vincent Turners of the world and the Eric Gottliebs of the world to help our student athletes and to help our children to pick them up when they're falling, because they don't have all the tools as an Eric Jr. have. They don't have all the tools as your producer have. So it's left up to us as brothers, as men, to come in and to offset whatever is missing in these children's lives. And no, they may not go on to play sports, but they may be somebody's best employer. And so that's what we're looking for, to take the troubling kids that doesn't always have what they need, to pick them up. And what we want to do is take away the violence in their life, take away the negative mindset in their life, and then replace it with some positivity, and then move forward with our children. I think we can do it, and I know we can do it. All we do is, if it was good enough for us back then, and if it was good enough for grandma and grandpa and all of them to do it, I think it's still in 2023, bro, Vincent. I think it's still good enough for us to do it. We just got to find those ways.
If you like the video today, please come in and share it. And we surely appreciate here on 100 Yards Football. To the gentleman that made it happen this morning, Mr. Jeremiah Long, thank you so much. To the team of 100 Yards Football, to my business partner, my brother, Mr. Ronnie Keebler, Brooklyn, New York. To my man out of Delray Beach, Atlanta Falcons, Florida State Seminole, Mr. Bobby Butler. To Mr. Logan Landers, thank you for all the hard work you do for us on Wednesdays. Man, we wouldn't be blessed without you. Mr. Mark Denham, the greatest voice that's going on any level right now in the entertainment, PA announcing, I love you. Thank you. And of course, Mr. Outley, you know that I would not be very blessed without, they call him the bearer, Mr. Jim Maryland. Thank you so much for bringing this young man to us. And to you, Mr. Eric Outley, I wish you continue with your success, your prayers and blessings of your son. I hope to hear him one day, maybe not in the football arena, but something bigger than what's going down there in Ruston. I think with you in his life, I think we got somebody, Mr. Eric Jr., is going to be special. My final words here, 100 yards of football. The only thing I can say, you remember when you were small and used to go to church and grandpa and grandma take care of your mama? The first song I learned when I was a small kid, Jesus loves you, this I know. Thank you. Here on 100 Yards of Football, Mr. Eric Outley, thank you. Be blessed and be very safe during these memorial holidays. God bless.